Initially, in the past, most of our past leaders would always come out, say different things to us, telling us the things they are going to do if being elected into office, and then eventually when Nigerians elect them into office, they don't keep to their promises. So I don't know, how is your own different? What do you want to say to Nigerians that that actually persuade them to want to vote for you, and then be rest assured that them giving you their money, you're going to do all the things you're saying you do for them.
I hope you don't mind if I answer to the camera instead of you.
No, it's fine.
I love this approach to our campaign. Meaning, instead of simply spending all the money to make promises, we decided to actually start making changes through the community centers. It's because we want to show the people that despite the fact that we are not in government, that we are not elected, we are actually doing the things we are promising we are going to do if we are elected. If we can actually come out and do these things, bring those changes, fix their society, give them water, give them jobs or ability for them to go out and get those jobs. That is the metaphor of teach somebody how to fish and you teach him fish. And instead of giving him the fish. If we can actually do that before we are in office, of course that shows our seriousness. It shows the fact that if we are in office, right, we are likely going to do a lot of those things. With our limited funding, if we can do these things, means if we have a position of power, we are going to make those changes. That is why we decided to not just make promises, but to actually act now. When we have the ability to act, because we can act now. We don't need to be in government to start acting. And I don't know if that answers your question, Ichiro.
Yeah.
But not sufficient. I can see that it's not sufficiently.
You're not actually talking to me, you're talking to Nigerians. So I guess Nigerians will be the ones. In the past, most of our leaders, they actually come with this same strategy. They'll come to us, promise us that they are going to do this, they are going to do this when elected into office, and then at the end of the day, we Nigerians, we get to vote them into office, and then they don't actually do these things. So what makes it different? What are you going to say to Nigerians or you're going to maybe assure us, the people, your voters, that when you get into office, you're going to deliver to them?
You see, you asked me this question before, and I guess I can tell that my answer did not satisfy you completely. Now, unfortunately, it is not possible for a person to know what is in that person's heart. And even then, if people vote for you, your heart can still change, and then you decide simply to become like all the other politicians, whose main job is not actually to do for the people what they were elected to do, but to try to enrich themselves as much as they possibly can. Now, I think a few of the reasons why people should, to some extent, why I think what makes me different is, first of all, this approach to politics that we're using. It has never been used before, not by any politician in the country. We decided consciously not to run with PDP, not to run with APC, not to run with NNPP, because, again, the point is to run away from the politics of the old and move to the politics of the new, to not owe any godfathers or any other interests, anything other than the people. And so our mandate is dependent only on what we end up doing for the people. Right? Now we will have a long-term vision, long-term plan. If they don't elect us into office, we cannot achieve it. If they elect us into office and we don't do the right things, they can vote us out as well. So that is not enough anyways. Second, the approach we decided to use, where we are going to be committed, we are going to build those, we are going to do those acts, those programs in our community centers. I think it should inspire some confidence in the people and in the general public that we actually mean what we say. Third, I don't think anybody has taken their time to come out with a plan, with an actual plan for what it is they want to achieve, a complete plan about what their objectives will be in government. We came up with a comprehensive plan, and we're not refusing to share our security plans until we came up with these plans, and then we took all of these efforts to share these plans with the general public, to go out and commit ourselves to what we are trying to achieve. And then next, this, at least, if not us, why then?
If not them, why us? So the question is, those people have been, it's the same, APC, PDP, is the same people from 1999 in APC and PDP, it's the same people. One or two new people, new faces. They've tried, they've made their promises and they did not fulfill them. So if you say, oh, why should we vote for you, Taslim Ahmed? Why should we listen to you, Action Alliance? Why should we listen to you, the Nigerian Action Association, which is the association I'm trying to promote, by the way? If you say to us why, we say, okay, if not listen to us, at least don't listen to them. They have not given you any plans. They've made you the same promises over and over again. They've not delivered. They've not taken any action despite the great decline in our economy, in our security, in our education. So all I'm saying is, AJ, at the very least, even if you don't vote for us, you vote against them. Right? Give us a chance to show you that we can do better. And by the way, it's not going to take a lot to do much better than what these people are doing. As I said earlier, any government that even comes in and does nothing is better than this government. At least they're not doing anything bad. And we are not planning on doing nothing. We are planning on dedicating the rest of our lives to making this country better. For them, they are going to be dead, most of them in 10, 15 years. It's natural. There's nothing wrong with death. Death is natural. We will die as well, all of us. But we have to live. At my 26 years of age, if I grow up to be as old as they have been, which is not very certain in this Nigeria of today, by the way, if I do grow up to be as old as they are, it means I have decades of life to live. Decades for my brothers and sisters, my family and friends, for my own children, if I should ever have any, if I should be blessed with any. If there is no Nigeria, if people like us don't come out and say enough is enough, no matter how much we steal, no matter how much we loot, it's going to mean nothing, because we will not even have a country to steal from. This is why people should trust us, why they should believe in us. Because we have a stake in the future of Nigeria. They only have a stake in right now. That is all they have a stake in. We are the future. They are at best the present, and at worst, they are the past. And that's how we should make them. We should make them history. I don't know if I managed to answer that question.
Yeah, it's actually answered. Actually done justice to that question, and I'm really convinced, So then, to the next question. Though me as a person, I've gone through your manifesto, so I don't know. At the end, if you check the Nigeria of today, you realize that there's so many issues facing the country. So I want you to quickly highlight some of these points. Some of the challenges that Nigeria as a country is actually facing, and then how you intend to solve these things going on in the country. For instance, I'll give an example. In terms of the educational sector, also has been on strike since February 14, and up to this moment, I think I wouldn't say the government are not doing anything, but then I feel all they've been doing is actually not yielding any positive result. So how do you intend to fix these things, to make it a better place for every Nigerian?
Thank you very much for that question, Chief. There's a few things. I think we all know what the major challenges facing Nigeria are. Okay? We don't need anybody to come out and tell us numbers. We don't need somebody to tell us that the youth unemployment rate is above 50%, or that unemployment is currently above 30%, or that more than 30, 40 million people are jobless in the country. We don't need anybody to tell us that. Yeah. We know.
It's obvious.
It's obvious. Now, but to answer your question in a more concrete manner, for me, I feel there are really three things kind of destroying us right now.
Okay.
Number one is insecurity. Number two is the economy, the poor performance of the economy. What does the economy mean? People say economy. Economy means jobs. Aiki in Hausa. Dina, what is
economy?
What is jobs in Yoruba? Ishe.
For the people.
Ishe. I really wish we had somebody who spoke Igbo, because I would like to actually
say it,
because it's so important.
Yeah, for people to understand.
It's so important. Lack of jobs, because it's what is causing the insecurity we just mentioned now.
Okay.
Right? Then, so if we talk about the economy, and the other economy, we also still have jobs. We have inflation. What is inflation? Inflation just means rising prices. The price of rice is 7.5 in 2015, 35,000 in 2022. Only God knows where it's going to in 2023. This is the meaning of inflation. Inflation is a real thing where and you are earning the same money. The minimum wage is still the same, 30,000 naira. The minimum wage that can buy you about 4 bags of rice before cannot even buy you up to a bag now. In fact, the wage is going down. The number of jobs are going down. And you cannot blame the private companies because they're not even making enough money anymore. Right? This is the kind of economy. I didn't wish to digress this much. And then you have what's it called? You have lack of law and order. Right? Okay. Law and order is simply the ability to own your own property, to be punished for doing wrong, for stealing, for corruption. You know? And to be rewarded for doing right through the having of a peaceful society. That is such an important thing. And then finally, we have education. Now, I'm not saying that it's the only problem that's facing Nigeria. Education, by the way, is one of the most important. Because education, all of these things, they guarantee our present. Education guarantees our future. Education ensures people are able to go out and get jobs. People are able to go out and build their own businesses. People are able to go out and realize and know who should I vote for. This thing is saying, is it so? To understand what the points are, what the issues are, and therefore, based on the points and issues, decide what kind of government you are going to elect into power. It is only education that can do that, that can safeguard our democracy and safeguard our country. Now, there are still so many other issues, obviously. You know, issues like corruption, which is very important. Issues like infrastructure, extremely important. But infrastructure falls anyway squarely under the economy. These are the major issues. Now, unfortunately, it is difficult for somebody, a member of the House of Reps, a single member of the House of Representatives, to come out and fix actually any of these problems. That is why we are not trying simply as an individual to change the country. That is why what we need is a group of people, a large group of people. I'm talking to you, everybody at home, every Nigerian, to come out and say enough is enough. To agree that it is time to start making those real changes, not the change they've been paying lip service to actually fix those areas, that economy, that insecurity, that education, you know, the law and order, to actually come out together through the forming of a party, through the forming of a mass movement of people who believe in a certain ideology, come out together and then try to make those changes. Because one person cannot do it. No matter if one person is the president, if that one person is a senator or a governor, a single person cannot do it. A team is required. A team of people who have control over what the government does, or at least significant influence. They want people in the executive, in the legislative, and the judiciary. The executive, because they execute the policies, and even in many cases create those policies that happen in the economy. Everything from taxation, you know, to how they influence the government spending. All of these things influence what happens in the economy. They influence what happens in the country. To security, then the law, the legislative, they create those laws. So we need a lot of these people. That's why I'm calling out well-meaning Nigerians, from all walks of life, whatever you may be. If you are a farmer or a student or a housewife, whatever you may be, come out and join us. Let us stand together and actually do something about all this. You know, we need a team of people. Now, our short-term plan, of course, first is to call out these people that actually believe and bring them together in an association of some sort. You know, or a party. Yes. So when we come together, we pick out the excellent ones among us, the best of us, so to speak. Because again, despite popular opinion, we all have different abilities, different skills. Some of us are most suited for making changes, some of us are most suited for supporting. You know? And so we come together, and we actually start running for public office. The normal youth, the the student who has just graduated, who has a lot of experience in student politics, or who simply believes strongly enough to dedicate his life to this, let us come out and run for those offices. Let us run for the House of Representatives, for Senate, for governor, even for president eventually. Let us take back this country. Somebody is going to tell me now that they are too young to be president. Or I think almost half of our leaders were below the age of 40 when they became president. Everybody from Obasanjo to Buhari, Yakubu Gowon, they were all young. All of them were young people. It is they who have held this power for the last 40, 50 years, even more. Yes, since 1966. So I don't think that can be a viable argument that the youth cannot actually do, or the young people, or the new people, because it's not just about the youth. It's about everybody. Unemployment is not affecting just the youth. Hunger is not affecting just the youth. Insecurity is not affecting. It's affecting all of us.
Anyways, I was going to ask you something.
So, I think you asked me a more specific question, okay? Which I'm sorry, I diverted. It's difficult when you have to speak about such passionate issues.
Okay, I guess you just answer the question and then.
Yeah. So let me try.
Okay.
First things first, build an association of people. Second, get them into office, like I'm trying to do now. Become a member of the House of Representatives, and then when we are in there, at least in the beginning, if we don't have a
okay, let me just cut you.
Okay.
You said you're going to build an association where people that actually believe in what you want to do will come and then join this association. So my question is, okay, if these people should come and join this association, how will you know that they have the same intent as you? Like they're after the good, what's the word? Like they actually want Nigeria to be a better place.
It is not in your words, it is in your actions.
So what kind of scrutiny are they going to, or is there a test?
There is no test or scrutiny.
So what do you say?
For the fact that somebody should leave his house or should give up his time towards the furthering of an objective or towards anything at all, and do it for free, already tells you that this person at the very least has some good intentions. Of course, you can never prevent, let's call them bad eggs, from joining any kind of group or any kind of association. You can never, or any kind of party or political party. You cannot do anything to stop it. But if you have a strong enough number of people, but the average person, the general number of people, they care about these things. It's actually affecting their lives. Of course, you can rely on them, quite likely to have genuine interest. And then the actions of these people over time will tell you exactly who they are, what they are trying to achieve. Now, I was trying to finish a thought, okay? Regarding as a member of House of Reps. Anyways, I think that's something I'd like to talk about separately later. You have these people come in, and then when they come in, people get into office, you can start making changes. Even when you don't have a large number of them, you can try to influence government policy through committees, through interactions with the executive. You can try to influence the execution of government policy through the passing of bills and so on and so forth. Now, to answer your original question, I'm sorry to have divided too long. How do I see myself actually solving these problems? Was that your question?
Yeah,
or could you repeat the question?
Nigerians who actually want to know more about you, the things you do, where you work, your educational background. I feel this is an opportunity for you to tell Nigeria who you are exactly,
AJ, I've always had trouble talking about myself.
Yeah, but
even though I quite enjoy talking about myself sometimes.
but it's something that you have to do.
Yeah, it's quite difficult, to be honest. You're afraid about, some of the things you say. You may miss out some important things about who you are, But I guess, Taslim, so my name again, as you know, Ichi, very well. It's Taslim Ahmed Iya. I'm from Adamawa State. I was born in Niger State, 1996, 12th May. I guess I lived in Lagos for a short time before we moved to Abuja. So I actually grew up in Abuja. Spent most of my life in Abuja. I went to quite a few secondary schools and primary schools. And I guess my life started in earnest, at least in my own mind, after I finished my secondary school. When I went to, instead of going to, I told my parents I wasn't going to university. I said I wanted to start business. Of course, they didn't agree, but I refused to write my jam. So my dad decided, okay, instead of starting a business, why don't you go and work for my friend's company, that is Sigma Securities, as a stockbroker, which is where my entire career started, to be honest. I met Hamza Modibo, my boss then. He was just an amazing boss. I loved everything about his personality. He was very nice to me. He was very helpful. And then during that time, I started learning more about the stock market and about investments, even though I had already started learning about investing. The reason why my dad actually sent me to a stockbroker was because since I was 14 years old, I had fallen in love with the ideas of Warren Buffett and his teacher, Benjamin Graham. Oh. So I was reading a lot. Even when I was a science student in class, I'll be covering my physics textbook with, I'll be covering my investment textbook with a physics textbook during physics class, during math class. I spent most of my time basically just reading about investments, and I loved it. So when I went to work there, I started practicing those things I had learned, and so I started giving advice to some of the clients about what they should be buying, what they should be selling, and I realized, and it came to me very often. I realized I was actually quite good at it. I made a lot of money for some of them. I made quite a bit of money for my dad and myself as well. Anyways, it was a very easy time to make money. Any idiot could have made money, and I did. So, my dad was proud of what I was doing there, so he decided to give me some money. It was about 350,000, I think, along with about, I think, and so I invested. So I decided to quit working there after 6 months. I had, of course, by then met Umar Modibo, the owner of the company. Yes, and he had, he was one of the people who inspired me to think that I could actually manage money for people, outside of just myself. And so my career started as an investment manager. Started managing money for my father, myself, and then for friends and family. Gave me, and in the first year I was so lucky. I made over 100% return on investment. In fact, I was in 8 months, I think, between October and July or so. So that was what really allowed people to trust me more.
Yeah, believe in you.
And believe in me, and then actually started investing with me. And that was the beginning of my life as it is today, basically. Now, the thing about investment management is, to become a good investment manager, you need to learn about politics, how it affects local politics, because politics affects the economy. You need to learn about the economy, because the economy affects every business you are going to invest in. You need to learn about geopolitics, meaning how the relationship between one country and another affects you. You need to learn about macroeconomics, meaning how government policy, the central bank policy affects the overall economy, right? So in learning all of these things, you actually become an expert in many, many different fields to become an investment manager, which fortunately qualified me, which is among the things that qualified me to have such a good knowledge of how the country works, how the economy works. Back then I was not interested at all in the country or what was happening. I was comfortable. I already made enough money to go and live in Dubai for about 6 months around that time. Less, maybe 4 months or so. On my own dime, after less than 2 years in business. So I went to Bocconi University in Milan, in Italy. I actually got into a few universities in the UK because I did my A-levels. I think it's called foundation, actually. I wrote the SATs. So I got into some universities in the US, in the UK, and in Italy. I actually don't remember so much about how I actually decided to go to Italy, but I remember I was very interested in becoming a race car driver, a Formula One driver. I didn't know then that it was not possible. And the admission to the US, Robin School of Business, I think it's called. It was actually a scholarship, and I actually got that scholarship to a school called SP Jane, which wasn't as good as the Robin School. The Robin School was the 11th best school, I think, in the US, business school. And the SP Jane was an opportunity to live, again, on full scholarship, to live in 3 different countries. I think it was Australia, the UAE, and one other country, I don't remember right now. And I was so interested, but I don't remember what it is really. This is one of those things about life, I don't remember what the clinching argument was.
Wanting to go to Milan.
Yes.
Maybe because of the Formula One.
I think that was probably it, but to be honest, I don't even remember at this point. And so I ended up going to school there, and it was an amazing thing that I did. I made a lot of very interesting friends. I understood. I got a much wider perspective of the world and how the world was. I had amazing teachers there. A lot of my teachers had real life experience of what they were teaching. I remember we had an international relations professor who was actually being considered to become a minister in Italy at that point. And our vice chancellor in the Nigerian context was actually the former prime minister of the country, you know.
Oh,
so we had a lot of visiting dignitaries
Yeah,
coming to teach us. So I learned a lot more about geopolitics and all of that, you know. I'm sorry that again, this is why I don't like to.
No, it's fine.
But I mean, reliving this is such an interesting thing for me personally. So I got to what's it called? I guess one of the teachers who had my international relations professor. He had one of the most remarkable influences on me. He explained to me about how the world works, you know, what makes countries decide to do what they do. But I guess what really made me was around this point I started becoming political. It was when in 2015 when they first devalued our currency. At some point, I couldn't even transfer money. They couldn't even transfer money to me in Italy.
Yeah.
I couldn't even buy food, let alone pay my rent. I had no idea how I was going to do that. So that was the first time I started trying to understand what happens to an economy for them to be in a situation like that. That's when I understood what policies the government was taking that was causing that to happen, that was causing us to not have enough currency, to have to introduce something what they call capital controls. You know, what was causing my life to become just so terrible that I was not even sure that I could continue my education. That was the first moment I actually became political. And I think one of the most personal moments was when I went to a meeting of investors because I made a very interesting friend. His name is Mate Rima, Hungarian. And he took me to an investors meeting of people that had a lot of investments in Nigeria. They were invested in First Bank and many of the other banks. They had, I think, about $1 billion portfolio.
Oh.
And so they were asking me when I thought about the valuation, seeing as how I was an investment manager myself. Of course, nowhere near them. And I told them, it's not going to happen. Buhari said he's not going to devalue our currency, it's not going to happen. And less than a few weeks later,
It was devalued.
and I felt so stupid, I felt deceived by the government. Because I was one of the people I really believed. I believed so strongly. Even though in the beginning I wasn't sure what the hype was. I know that I only fell in love with Buhari because my parents were so in love with him. Because I never actually understood why people cared about Buhari. I never quite understood. So after that, that was the beginning of my political awareness. I ended up learning a lot about economic history, why countries develop the way they develop, why economies function the way they do, what causes people to elect politicians, what causes politicians to make the decisions they make, which is what led me to education. I came to understand that the root cause of our problem was the fact that the populace were not educated. They did not have the knowledge to understand that this is what a political leader is supposed to do for you. This is how to select your political leaders. And as long as that kept happening, they would never be able to choose the right leaders. And as long as they could not choose the right leaders, the leaders would never then build an economy that build a country that is secure, because they have no incentive to do so. And which is what led me to begin my first work in public service, which was my foundation. I started a foundation called Youth Compass Foundation. And so I started, my first task was to try to see if I could get education going, through my own, because by then I was consulting, I was making a little bit of money, and I had made I had a few friends who were also making some money by then, and we decided, okay, you know what, I started myself, and then I started, join me, let's do this together. And so we started trying to make an impact on education. We started giving scholarships, trying to build things for schools. In the process, we were learning about the limitations of education. And then we came to a point where I realized, when we raised about 6,000 euros in one fundraising drive, and we couldn't even send the money from Europe to Nigeria at some point. Only the personal money we were raising, were we able to actually spend. I mean, these things made me realize that if within a single fundraising drive we raise no more than 10,000 euros, how much effort is it going to take for us to raise the amount of money required? Because that money was not going to it wasn't even going to fix the education system in one out of our 774 local government areas. It was not even going to make a dent. So I realized that only government can actually make the kind of sustained change, because we realized that through our research that it doesn't matter where the student is learning. If no matter how bad the environment is, students will learn. You know,
Okay.
what really mattered apparently was the quality of the teachers. That was one of the most important factors, right? And then the method of teaching. That is what courses are taught and how they are taught. Everything on the curriculum, the syllabus, those were the key things. And there were things that private individuals like us could not have influence on. We didn't even have enough teachers, let alone quality of teachers. I remember I went to Jada, my local government, and one of our drives. And this school we went to, I don't want to name the school. They had about 700 students, and only 3 classes were working.
Oh my God.
3 classes. All the other ones have been destroyed by rain and all. But that wasn't the worst thing. Eche, the worst thing was that there were only 6 staff for all 700 students. And that 6 staff includes the principal, the vice principal, and the cleaner. That was when I realized I lost hope in the ability of a private individual to make changes. And so I said, yes, of course, I will do what I can in my own way, but I no longer believe that as an individual I could make that change. The closing period, to cut this short, of course, I've had a career after that. I consulted for quite a few companies after I came back to Nigeria. I built my investment practice. I started a few businesses, among them African Times, the online newspaper. I engaged in a lot of businesses, some of which failed. I was in the tomato business. I traded sesame seeds, a lot of agricultural products, some of which I still do. I even engaged in the meat business, wholesale, retail. I mean, a lot of this, of course, all in the search for, I think they call it alpha, all in the search for profit.
Yeah.
Still, my investment business was, it allowed me the income to try these many things. I started a fast food restaurant called Uncle T's, which also became extremely successful. It was predominantly started in Zaria, anyways, 2021, and this was one of the things that really led me to start to appreciate education at a more granular, at the direct level, But actually I started interacting a lot more with university students. I started trying to recruit staff in large numbers. At some point, we had about 300 staff. And you get to meet a lot of people and understand what they are looking for in jobs. You're right, they're not even qualified. Some of them are not even qualified to be a cashier. Somebody that is in university. Because they don't even have, none of their training or experience has trained them on what it means to be a good civic citizen. Of course, you are lucky sometimes and you find extraordinary people. And I've been so lucky I found some extraordinary people. I don't want to name anyone because I'm afraid I might then forget to name someone else. I might end up feeling bad, But I ended up meeting a lot of extraordinary people. And this renewed of course, it renewed my faith. But then came the ASU strike. Now, I had invested a lot of money, well over, a lot of money. I don't want to call numbers here. In building these businesses in Zaria, we created a lot of employment. A lot, I think, in Zaria alone, more than 200 people we employed. At some point or the other, we are making direct contributions to the economy, and I planned to expand again across the entire country. Because that's what you do when a business is successful. That's what it means to have a good economy, where you can actually build a business and expand. Where anybody can wake up one morning, start a business and expand from anywhere. That was my first time in Zaria when I opened that restaurant. Well, one of my first times in Zaria. And so this has to strike. I bring you now to the reason why I decided specifically to start running. Even though I'm sure you were not expecting.
I thought I wasn't
But when you start telling a story, you forget
to the roots.
And now when the ASU strike started, first things first. Of course, our sales went down significantly. So we had to let go of our staff. That was the most painful decision I had to make because we couldn't afford to pay them anymore. We simply could not. Now, a lot of these people lost their livelihoods, a lot of them, and they have no way of getting it. And almost all the businesses in the surrounding area closed. And this is only the business impact. Forgetting about the educational impact. I know some people that have been in level 1 since 2019. This is 2022. Level 1.
Yes.
2019. When are they going to finish? For an education that when they finish, they're not going to get a job. I feel so sad when I walk in. I'm thinking, which economy is going to take all of these students I'm looking at now? I'm wondering. And then I talk to them, and they're not even prepared for the economy, for what they are going to meet. They're not prepared to start a business. They're not even prepared to get a job. Because the education system is not even training them to get there. Still at this point, I still care a lot. But still at this point, I mean, I had decided to start up to take action, which is when I decided to start. As the strike got worse and worse, I started getting news. I couldn't even travel to Zaria to go and check on my business anymore at some point because the road between Abuja and Kanda became so bad. Then the train was attacked. And then the airport was attacked. Then the roads became unpassable. I saw videos of an attack where the bandits had simply come out, spent 2 hours, cleared about 30 cars, kidnapped just only God knows how many people. And I mean, what are we supposed to do? There's nothing we can do as a private individual. You know? Now, my business is suffering, the employees have to let go of, even worse, the education of those people are put on hold, and even when they finish, they have really no guarantee of where they are going to go to. The security of my life, the lives of my family, and the clinching point was, I think it was when, around the same period, I think the same day or the day after when this attack happened, 2 of my friends, and one of which is you by the way, had their relatives kidnapped on the same day. On the same day. And I thought if 2 people that I know separately from different parts of the world can have their relatives kidnapped on the same day, how many people are being kidnapped that is not even being talked about? That was the day I decided to run for office. That was the day I decided that Taslim, you cannot wait. Better for you to come and try. Whatever it is, you can try. And I decided at that moment to dedicate the rest of my life to this. The rest of my life. Why? No matter what I do for my own self, if I live in a country where my family, my friends, the general public, my customers are not secure, there's no pleasure. With my degree, I can probably move to Europe to get a job. I don't want a job in Europe. I cannot live anywhere else. There is nowhere else to live but Nigeria. Anybody that has lived outside Nigeria for a few years will tell you that there is no country like your own. We only have one country. That's why we must make it work. We must make this country work. Or at the very least, feeling that we must try our hardest to make it work. And that is what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm fighting for.
Okay, Taslim, can you tell us what you do for fun? Like, what do you do during your free time?
Oh, it's funny. Oh, I'm so sorry, Jay. There was somebody who I didn't mention in terms of my influences, and then I'll answer your question.
Okay, then. But you can actually mention the person before you answer the next question.
So, Lee Kuan Yew, the former Prime Minister of Singapore from 1959 to 1990. Okay. I think recently in my life, nobody has had a greater influence. His ability to pull a country from the third world to the first world, from near abject poverty to literally the most advanced economy in the world, with the highest level of living in virtually everything, highest education, they have the best students, highest education levels, they have the highest technological military, they have the best of everything, and they achieved this literally in one generation.
Amazing.
That is one of the things that made me believe that it is possible to transform Nigeria. This man has
you can do it.
Yeah, of course, Lee Kuan Yew is an extraordinary man, and I cannot dare to even for a second imagine myself close to him. The circumstances that produced a man like that, they cannot come together anymore. So they cannot be another Lee Kuan Yew. He's an extraordinary leader, an extraordinary man. You know, nobody is perfect. He was by far one of the most. If I had to choose a man of the century, of the last century, it would have to be Lee Kuan Yew. If I had to choose a man of the last 1,000 years, the last millennium, it would probably be Lee Kuan Yew. And I mean, he has had the most important recent influence on my life. Of course, his other team members had such an influence as well. Goh Keng Swee, his finance minister, defense minister, S. Rajaratnam, his foreign minister. These men, when you read about their lives and their efforts and their desire to dedicate their lives to building their own country, despite the fact that they could have decided to do anything else with their lives and made an amazing amount of money, that was a huge influence on me. Now, regarding your question, Ichi, your question was, what again? What I like to do for fun? I think you can guess, Ichi, and I think you know.
I don't know. yeah, I know, but then Nigerians want to know what you do.
I'm not sure anybody cares what I want to do for fun, but you see, I read a lot of books. I read books very often. I like to read about economics, about history. I love history. I love biographies a lot, which is why African Times, my online paper, we have a biography section which I'm trying to develop so that we can get the histories of Nigerians, because there is no biography of. I cannot read biography of Nigerians. There's so few of them. And then the ones that do exist as such are so poorly written. They don't even take account of the person's life. They are written just to view the person in a positive light, you know?
I understand.
And I watch movies. I really like to watch movies. I watch all kinds. I listen to music. Action, comedy, romance. I'm a big fan of romance. I've always been a fan of love, you know. Since I guess growing up, I was never around a lot of women.
Romeo.
We were all boys. We were all boys in the family.
Yeah, okay.
I went to an all-boys school at some point, Islamic schools. So I guess I became, I don't know, I guess it was always like, women were always like a mystery to me. So I romanticized the idea. And, you know, unfortunately, I've you know, I've overcompensated, let's say, as I grew up. And I mean, that's one of the things I quite enjoy, meeting new people, and I quite enjoy my romantic relationships. I think that's something I quite enjoy in my life. That's making a connection with someone new, especially when it's a girl, you know. I'm sure it's because of, again, the way I was raised and my history, which is why, and I guess I also really enjoy hanging out with my friends, you know, just spending time and talking about things, about ideas specifically. I think those are my primary. Of course, I have so many other interest basics, but I think these are probably the
major ones, right?
Yeah, the major ones. Yes. I don't know if you can think of any other interests that you know I have that I haven't mentioned. I'm sure.
I guess it's going to be a personal thing. I won't say them come out.
All right.